What's going on, guys? I'm Tommy, and I'm coming at you with an action figure review. Today, I'm going to be reviewing Hasbro The Black Series, IG-12, and Grogu from Season 3 of The Mandalorian. I remember before Season 3 came out, I heard rumors going around on Reddit and such that there was going to be a scene where Grogu kind of gets in a mech suit almost with IG-11, and I remember thinking that was kind of crazy, and I didn't think I was going to like it in the show, but I ended up liking it a lot more in Season 3. I think they did it really tastefully. I know for some people it's not their cup of tea, but for me, I think it just did perfectly, and it really elevated Grogu's character for those last couple episodes, so we didn't have to have him being carried around so much. He was able to kind of do his own thing. This release was a mainline deluxe release for the Black Series, meaning you'd be able to find this at your local Targets and Walmarts here in 2024, as well as your fan channels like Big Bad Toy Store, GameStop, etc. This comes in what is the standard deluxe packaging for the Black Series right now. Up at the top, you have your Black Series logo, a big plastic window showing you the figures, and a couple other figures we have in here. You have in vertical text the names of the characters, and that this is number 41 for the Mandalorian subline. Down here, you have the Mandalorian show name with that same color, and down at the bottom, you have some more logos. On the side here, we have our mural art showing you IG-12, Grogu, and one of our Anzellans that we saw there. You can also see the characters' names down at the bottom. On the back of the box, we have again the Black Series logo, the characters' names, and the same mural art we saw on the side of the box blown up quite a bit, and you get a bio in about 1,000 different languages. This bio reads, "Clever Anzellan droidsmiths refurbished IG-11's salvaged parts into a pilotable frame for Grogu, who operates the droid body like a vehicle. Stripped to base motor functions, the droid was renamed IG-12. And then we again have that this is number 41 for the Mandalorian subline. Crazy to think we have 41 figures in the Mandalorian subline now. Down here you have all your legalese. Please don't feed these action figures to your babies. On the side we have the Black Series logo. On the bottom we have even more legalese, and on the top, nothing. That about wraps it up for the packaging, so let's get these guys open so we can check them out. Alright, here are the figures out of the box. Before we check out IG-12, let's first check out some of the, I guess, accessories for him, this being the two Anzellans here. So believe it or not, both of these are new sculpts for Anzellans. We'll first take a look at this guy. Unlike Babu Frick, these guys do not have the little adjustable kind of welder's mask that he has, but I will say they've done a really good job sculpting these guys. They look awesome. Looking at the paint apps here, they did all the facial hair up, they did up the eyes, they even painted little bits and pieces on the belt, which in my opinion is above and beyond for a figure this small at this scale, and I think they've done a really good job with it. Here's the other guy here. He's got a little bit different facial hair going on, as well as a different little hat piece. I'm kind of surprised they didn't just reuse the Babu Frick sculpts for these guys, because it would have been easy reuse for them. I'm glad that Hasbro went the extra mile and really put some effort into painting and sculpting these guys here. These guys both have very similar articulation schemes. You do have little ball joints here at the shoulders, which do give you some decent range, and they do give you a full 360-degree swivel, and then of course they do have a swivel at the midsection. And like I said, exactly the same for both of these guys as far as articulation goes. Next up, we have Grogu. So this is a new sculpt for Grogu. Grogu actually looks bigger than most of the other Grogu figures that exist in the Black Series line. They did decide to paint up his hair a little bit here. They gave a little bit of white. He's got a little bit of pink paint applications for the nose, cheeks, and the ears, and he's got some black for the eyes. And they did just give some little highlights to his little suit that he wears throughout the show. And one thing I will say is, why does Grogu never change his clothes? Maybe he's a little stinky little guy, but they did sculpt his little feet in here. Those do technically have articulation. I would even say these are ball joints plugged in down here. However, he does also have some ball joints at the shoulders. Those do give you that same 360-degree swivel, and he's got little ball joints at the wrists, so you can kind of move those any which way you would like. And then he of course has a ball joint at the head, so you can make him look around. A very basic Grogu figure, but I think it's a very good one nonetheless. Again, happy that they did a new sculpt for Grogu as opposed to just repacking an old one. Alright, now let's check out IG-12. So the first thing that I want to point out, this is a new sculpt head to toe for IG-12. I'm very, very happy that Hasbro decided to do something new with this character as opposed to give us the same old, you know, garbage that was the old IG figure. They could have totally just done a new torso and, you know, not redid anything else. I'm really glad they decided not to do that. This dude's pretty awesome. He's got some awesome paint applications here. You can see the whites up at the, I guess, photoreceptors up at the head here. He's got all kinds of almost like a bronze color as well as more of a khaki color going on here. All of these little tubes are loose pieces that are kind of rubbery, so they should move out of the way in theory when you're articulating this figure. And I will say the one thing that's a huge up for me on this figure is for the elbows here, they went with sculpted plastic and sculpted it into the joint as opposed to doing the kind of rubber overlay pieces that they did before, because those literally just would deteriorate and just rip apart and fall apart on the old IG figures. So I'm glad that they've done away with that and gone with this new scheme for this figure, because I'm really glad. I hated the way that worked on the old one. And then of course we have our little control panel for Grogu here. I like how they've sculpted all the seating area. I think it looks great in there. It looks nice and roomy. And then you have your little control panels here. These even have a little bit of articulation at little ball joints down here, which is kind of crazy that they went that far with it. I would have been okay with just sculpted plastic pieces with no articulation, but again, very cool that Hasbro went the extra mile in a lot of ways with this figure. He doesn't stand perfectly. Mine came out with some kind of loose ankle joints out the box. That's just my copy, my personal experience with this figure. However, he's a lot easier to get to stand than the old IG figures are. So he isn't perfect in that way, but he's definitely a lot better than the old ones. And again, I really just want to highlight the sculpting of all the machinery. You can tell that Hasbro really took their time with this one and made sure to get it right. There was a lot of inconsistencies with the old IG figure that just didn't look right to IG-11. I think this is much more faithful to how the character should look in the show, and I'm really happy again that Hasbro went the extra mile on this one. Okay, so covering articulation here. So he has a bunch of swivels going on up at the head here. So you have one that kind of controls everything up at the top, and then these individual ones can swivel as well, which is accurate to what we see in IG droids, I guess I should say, all throughout Star Wars. And then again, he's got another swivel down here at the very bottom, so all kinds of swivels going on up at the head here. You can move this any which way. At the shoulders here, he has a hinge and swivel. So you have a hinge on the kind of outer part of the shoulder where it meets the kind of top of the bicep piece, I guess I'll call it. That gets you up to about 90 degrees, and then this whole shoulder is on a swivel, so you can just twist this whole thing a full 360 degrees to get that to move. He's got some deep cut single jointed elbows here, so what those can do, well, those will get you way past that 90 degree mark, which is fantastic. He does also have a swivel at the top of that elbow too, and these can hyperextend in the exact same amount in the other direction, so that's really cool. Again, for the droids, I like when they can, you know, hyperextend their joints, because that makes a lot of sense for droids. Something that I really think is cool with IG is they did articulate the fingers so that they are on their own hinges and can make it so that he can grip different accessories. I think that's a really smart way to go about it, as opposed to the little peg system that they used on the previous IG sculpt. I'm really happy with how they went about that. I kind of showed this off before when I was showing the inside of the little cockpit area, but there is a hinge that brings this down, giving you easier access to putting Grogu inside of IG-12, because basically he's just a vehicle at this point. He's not a full-on droid. Down at the waist here, he does have a swivel, which again gives you some really nice range. Obviously can swivel a full 360 degrees. At the hips here, he does have a ball joint, so you can see I can actually get a lot of pivot, kind of how a thigh swivel would be on this figure, and you can also splay the legs out quite a bit, and you can move them. And apparently they fall off, but they're very easy to plug back in. But yeah, just be wary. It seems like these are very easy to pull out of the figure here, but you know, they're very easy to pop back in, so don't be worried if that happens to you. Down here at the knees, you do have a swivel at the top of the knee, it looks like, as well as a deep cut single jointed knee, so that gets you just past that 90 degree mark. And again, these can also hyperextend a bit towards the front. And then it looks like down here at the top of the ankle, he does have a swivel at the top as well as the bottom, kind of by the foot, although I will say that looks more like it's kind of just a forward facing pin for rocker type style. And then there is a little bit of a hinge that's going to get you plenty of forward actually, and then a little bit of back as well. So overall, I mean, I'm really impressed with the engineering that went went into this figure. Hopefully when I pose him around in some more dynamic poses, those feet kind of hold up and those ankles don't get too loose on me. Like I said, they were a little loose out of the box, but he's standing fine right now, so hopefully we have some good luck posing him. All right, so to get Grogu in here, we're just gonna put this down. There's no kind of pegs or clips or anything like that, so it looks like we're just gonna stick him in there, kind of get his ears tucked in there as well. That's gonna be the trick, actually, is you might have a difficult time getting him in there if you don't have his ears in there. Let's see if we can't get him to grab the knobs. There we go. You can get him to grab one. It might be difficult to get him to grab both, but you can definitely get him to grab at least one of them, which is great for the immersion of posing the figure. So something about IG, I kind of have to remind myself that he's very robotic and, you know, that classic robotic way. So if the legs are moving, he's not swinging the arms like how, you know, a human or an alien would maybe. So I have to keep that in mind here. But, you know, this pose here of him just kind of walking mid-stride is actually looking pretty good. I'm interested to see if I'll be able to balance him like this, though. I will say the hip joints having so much range really helped me with that in order to kind of bring him to a center of gravity so that you can get a pose like this and not worry about him falling over. This looks great. It seems we can even get this guy into a one-legged running pose with great ease. I'm moving him all around. I'm really not having any issues with keeping him in this pose whatsoever. This looks great, and I'm honestly really impressed. I was really worried with the ankles being loose when I pulled it out of the box, but this is a million times better than the old IG model. You could never do this with the old IG figures. I will say too, usually I'm worried with these rubbery pieces down at the legs about them kind of ripping apart, and that's happened before for me on different figures when they're too brittle. I've had no worries about this whatsoever. They're loose enough so that however you bend the legs, you don't have to worry about them snapping or coming out of place. So I gotta commend Hasbro for that too. All right, just for some quick comparisons here on the left, this is technically the IG-88 archive figure with the overlay for IG-11 on him, and then he is posed next to our IG-12. It honestly makes it look like the old figure was underscaled, which I actually didn't know that it was underscaled, but this looks great. I think this one is a huge improvement over the old one. And here he is now next to the Mines of Mandalore Mandalorian from Season 3. And just for comparison's sake, here is our new Grogu next to the old. This is from the red box packaging where they single packed him. This looks good. I think they're actually about the same size. But yeah, they've actually done a really good job of making this one a little bit thinner so that he can fit into the droid. So I think they've done a good job there. All in all, I think this is a fantastic release. I'm so excited to add this to my Mandalorian Season 3 display. I think this is a fun release. You should definitely get your hands on it. I have a hunch a lot of this is going to be reused for some future IG units. So if you want to kind of get the jump on what you're getting into, make sure to get this figure. I think it's a really fun set, and I think you'll really enjoy it as a Star Wars collector. With that being said, guys, I hope you enjoyed this review. If you did and you're not yet subscribed, subscribe to Blitz Transmissions. I've got awesome Star Wars content coming out all the time. Make sure to check out my social media, all of which is linked in the description below. That's going to be all for this review, guys. I'll catch you for the next one, and may the Force be with you.